Hi, friends, and welcome back to Homeschool to College. I know that as a homeschooling mom, we often worry whether the work our kids are doing will actually count in the eyes of college admissions officers. We wonder, will colleges take our transcripts seriously? Will my students' transcripts stand up to everyone else's? Am I leaving something out? You are not alone. Creating a homeschool transcript is one of the biggest hurdles that many parents mention when their kids get to high school. But here's the good news. Colleges absolutely accept homeschool transcripts if they are built the right way. Today, I'll walk you through the basics you need to know about transcripts, what to include, and how to make sure your student's application looks polished and professional. If you're part of an umbrella school, they're probably handling your student's transcript. Otherwise, you as a parent will be creating and maintaining it. Yes, that's just one more thing to add to your to-do list. But again, the good news is that homeschool transcripts are perfectly valid in the eyes of colleges. So let's start simple. What exactly is a transcript? A transcript is basically your student's academic record on paper. It shows what courses they took, what credits they earned, and what grades they received. Think of it as the snapshot that tells a college three things: what subjects your students have studied, how much depth and rigor those subjects had, and how well your student performed. Let's break each of these down. Your student's transcript should list each and every course your student completed and earned a grade for. This includes any high school level courses taken in middle school, courses taken through a third-party provider, and any electives that are unrelated to the core areas of math, science, English, social science, and world languages. So yes, even driver's ed goes on the transcript. This is because your student is more than just those core classes, and ultimately, colleges want well-rounded students who have varied interests. Now let's talk a little bit about rigor. One of the things that admissions committees are going to do when evaluating your students' transcripts is compare the level of difficulty of the courses they've completed. In traditional schools, you've got your standard courses, honors, AP, ACE, dual enrollment, and on and on and on. An AP course is more difficult or rigorous than a standard course, so it's given more weight. In essence, a student is rewarded for taking a more difficult course. For us homeschoolers, we don't necessarily think in those terms. For instance, when I was creating curriculum for my daughter, I would first look at the course syllabi from the universities that I respected and then design my course around that. What were those kids learning? What texts were they reading? And how in-depth was their writing? Even though she was essentially taking a college level course, I couldn't call it AP, so I called it honors. So unfortunately for homeschoolers, rigor is not always going to be evident on the transcript, but you can explain your methods in your school profile. Let's talk a little bit about grades. Colleges want to know how well your student performed in each class he or she took, and the easiest way for them to do that is by looking at grades, plain and simple. This can be either letter or numerical, and either way, it will be used to compare your student to himself and to other applicants. Admissions officers don't expect your teen to earn A's in all of their classes. However, they do want to see growth. So they are much more forgiving if your student didn't do so well freshman year. This is a time of transition from middle school to high school, so expectations change, rigor increases, and your student is in an adjustment period. Colleges understand this, but they also expect your teen to have it together by junior year and to not slack off in senior year, which I will admit I certainly did when I was in high school. Admissions committees also want to see that your student is willing to challenge herself, even if she can't pull the best grade. They'd much rather see a student earn a B in an AP course than an A in a standard or general course. On a side note, if you are an unschooler or your student doesn't have grades in the traditional sense, you will want to contact each university directly to see what they expect. Now that you know what a transcript is and the role it will play in your student's admissions application, let's discuss the elements of the homeschool transcript. At minimum, you will want to include student information, This includes your student's full name, date of birth, expected graduation year, and if your homeschool has a name as registered with your state or with your county, add that too. For privacy reasons, you should not include your student's social security number. My daughter's transcript also has our school's contact information, including address, phone number, and email address. Because our school is in our home, this is just our contact information. The second element you will want to include is the course list by year. While some homeschoolers like to organize their students' transcript by subject area, I find that organizing by grade level is a bit easier to read and most resembles an official college transcript. So in my opinion, organizing by grade level or year, say 25, 26, 2026, 27, and so on, is the way to go. The next element is the grade. Each course should be given a grade, either letter, ABC, or numeric. If you're the teacher of the course, how you choose to measure performance is up to you. If it's a third party, they will be the one to issue the grade, and that's what goes on the transcript. And please don't think about changing grades that have been issued by a third party, even if you think the grade is lower than what your child deserved. You don't ever want to be accused of doctoring grades on your student's transcript. The next element is credits earned. Typically, classes that last longer or take longer to complete are given more credit than shorter classes. To keep this simple, give courses that last an academic year 1 credit and give those that last for a semester half a credit. However, there are some exceptions to this. The first are dual enrollment classes taken at a college or university because college courses are only a quarter or a semester long. These courses should be given 1 credit each, even though they are shorter. The second exception is a course that was meant to be completed in an academic year, but was completed in a shorter period of time. So even if your student finished, say, English 1 in 5 months, it would still be given 1 credit because it was intended to be a year-long course. Then we have the weight. We talked about this earlier, but this is where you indicate the difficulty of the course. And once you have grade, credit, and weight, you can calculate the last element, which is the GPA or grade point average. A GPA basically whittles down your student's grade to 2 numbers, a weighted GPA and an unweighted GPA. The weighted GPA takes into account the rigor of advanced level courses, whereas the unweighted GPA does not. You're going to compute both of these averages several times throughout your student's high school career. And that's it at the foundational level. A transcript does not need to be fancy, but it does need to be complete and clear. Now, here's where a lot of homeschool parents get nervous. We ask, will the admissions committee respect the transcript that I created on my kitchen table? The truth is, they are looking for consistency, rigor, and context. As far as consistency is concerned, your student's grade should match the story of the application. If your student's application showcases their love of English, their plans to major in journalism, and the desire to one day become an author, the transcript should be a reflection of that. They've probably taken more classes in English and have done really well in them, whereas someone intending to major in, say, art is going to have a portfolio and a wealth of coursework in that area. As previously discussed, colleges also want to see rigor. Did your student challenge themselves with advanced classes, dual enrollment, or AP level work when available? For instance, my daughter is majoring in East Asian languages and took 4 years of Chinese. The first 2 years were only offered at the standard level, and she did not have the opportunity to take courses at the AP level, but her transcript shows her commitment to taking whatever Chinese language courses were available to her. So that does count for something. And lastly, we have context. Does this transcript line up with test scores, recommendation letters, and essays? If a homeschool student has straight A's, but has low test scores, a weak personal statement, and recommendation letters that don't speak highly of the student and his abilities, something is wrong. Admissions committees will see that and wonder if the grades were inflated. On the other hand, a student who wants to major in, say, computer science may have lower grades in English and may not have the strongest personal statement, but will probably have higher grades and test scores in math and science. Again, your job as the homeschool parent is to make sure your student's transcript paints a picture of growth, effort, and readiness for college level work. You don't need to oversell it or make it look like a public school transcript. You just need to make sure it is professional and, most importantly, accurate. We've talked about a lot so far, and there's so much more that we could dig into, like how to calculate GPA, how to weight honors and dual enrollment courses, and how to format the transcript so it looks professional. Those are topics I go into in depth in my upcoming course for parents of high school juniors. But today I'm focusing on giving you the big picture, what a transcript is, why it matters, and what belongs in it. But here's the thing. The transcript is only one piece of the admissions puzzle. Colleges don't just look at courses and grades, they also look at test scores. And in today's test optional world, knowing whether or not your teen should submit their ACT, SAT, or CLT scores is a huge decision. That's why in my next video, we'll be diving into standardized testing for homeschoolers. You won't want to miss it, so make sure that you are subscribed and have the notification bell turned on. And before you go, I want to make sure that you do not leave empty-handed. I've created 2 free resources to guide you and your student through the admissions process, and a list of the 100 books I think all homeschoolers should read before they graduate high school. The Homeschool to College roadmaps are step-by-step yearly checklists for parents and students starting in middle school. And if your student is currently in the 11th grade, join the waitlist for my upcoming course designed specifically for parents navigating junior year. You can find the links for those and the book list in the description box. I hope this helped you feel more confident about creating a transcript your teens' colleges will respect. Just remember, you are doing an amazing job. I'll see you in the next video on standardized testing. Bye.